confirmed that he wins. And the Republicans are always going to try to throw shade on it. Find 5 ballots were wrong over here, or 1 ballot was thrown away, so we should invalidate everything. I want a blowout on the blue side, and if there's a blowout for Republicans, then I want to check those results, because I refuse to believe that the person that lost by 3 million votes the first time is going to win this time.
We have to think about how elections affect us personally, and I think
just remember.
I think
don't
lot of times
expect the results to happen that night. Expect we're going to have Bush versus Gore for at least a couple of weeks.
Well, I'm still. There was that Washington Post article about if Texas actually flips, there is no path to victory.
That's right.
Trump.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that I've read, and I want to be optimistic that can happen. I don't know.
I hope so too.
A friend of mine's a Republican strategist, and he just doesn't see how it's possible. So we'll see what that happens. But on election night, we know that if Texas flips, and Texas is a largely vote in person early voting state, just because we weren't able to vote by mail. So
you have to be 65 or older or have a medical condition, and COVID doesn't count. I don't know how that works, but anyway.
So we'll see. But for me, for our listening audience, for me, the election really comes down to the winning marriage equality in 2015, and there is actually a threat and an assault on marriage equality right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I vote, that's what I think about. I think about my relationship. I think about my marriage. I think
you're
about
not a single issue voter.
It really just I can't deal with the Supreme Court that may want to overturn that. I can't deal with a leadership that may take away rights for renters, may take away rights for employees, may take away the ability to have just equality. And it's not even like special rights. It's just regular rights. You shouldn't be able to be kicked out of your housing because you are trans, or because you are black, or because you are gay, or because you are anything, because you're an unmarried woman, because of any of these things. And I can't support anything that threatens my life.
For me, and I've said this to Richard before, should we lose this election, I'll be right there beside him, locked arms with he and Chris, fighting to keep those equalities there, and I will not give up. I don't fight that battle personally. Obviously, as my friend, you do. For me, the thing is, when I look at a daughter, that her own reproductive rights are not hers should they win. I've been a huge environmentalist since I was a kid, because I look at the science and I go, I totally understand what's going on. And this scares me to the point, you guys both know this. I drive an electric car. I do these things, and I do this, and that terrifies me. I mean, you start looking at these kind of things. These are existential crises that have to be averted. And there's nothing you can do to convince me that the science does not point that we have an issue. And when you begin looking at that big dollar money is going to get behind eradicating us fixing this, I'm petrified of it. I won't lie. If they win, I'm like, I don't know how we survive this. And I want to have grandkids. I want my kid is an only child, and she wants to have children. I want to see her have that life she wants, and I want to have grandkids. Are you telling me that your profits off of oil are more important than the ability of my family to perpetuate their existence? No.
Well, Todd, you have nothing to worry about, because our president has appointed a Supreme Court nominee who has no opinions on global warming unless it comes to her as a court case. So you should have nothing to worry about, Todd.
So if I have no opinions about shit, there's nothing to worry about. Is that how that works in the magical thinking?
Well, it works when you're a judge. I don't know. Give me the case.
At least the Pope came out and said that, we need to be treating to an extent. I mean, acknowledge the fact that
by that logic, she's a Catholic and she should be obeying that. But guess what? She's a Republican. So
how did you feel about that, Richard? That the Pope came out and said this? He didn't come out necessarily and say that we need to have same-sex marriage. It was union, and I understand that's still a huge step for him to say something like that.
So having watched the needle move slowly over the last, 30 years of my voting adult life,
right.
I'm happy to see it move. I'm happy to see a direction. I'm happy to see a recognition.
Right.
Is it as far as I want it to go? No, not necessarily. But every movement forward isn't necessarily the leap that you need it to be. It's always
the same Pope. Is this the same Pope that is saying he's cool with gay marriages, but has not spoke out against people abusing children?
I think he has.
Yeah, I think he has said something about how this has to be fixed.
He's moved some people along and done some things, but the church itself is still kind of like...
He is by far the most progressive Pope liberal that they've had ever. So I appreciate it. So to that point, Richard, I correlate it to this, that, here I was talking in one of the episodes about running. I expect this week when I start running, I'm not going to be ready to go back to running 5Ks, 10Ks. I'm not going to be at that level. It's going to take me a long time to get there.
Right.
But you start that journey, and every time you clear a hurdle, it's like, yep, we're going the right way. I don't think anybody in their right mind ever expects, and with environmentalism, I don't expect us to go to renewable energy overnight. It is a journey that gets us there. Now, you need to set a finish line of this has to happen. So when I hear the Pope say those things, I'm like, at least he's saying the right thing that gets the conversation going in the right direction. Instead of this, if I lose a listener over this, I'm sorry. Instead of that dumb bitch that comes in here and starts using her, in my opinion, wacky religion to back up not treating all Americans equally. Her conversation is the exact opposite way of where we need to be.
I think that one of the points that I often try and get across or try and to bring up is that we seem to have to want to do these things where we divide sides, and it is wrong. It is wrong to believe that LGBT people are not also people of faith. Right. It is wrong to believe that we do not honor and cherish somebody else's religious beliefs and philosophies. But those should never be used to impinge other communities. I think that's where it diverges. Like I think I appreciate people of very, very strong faith. I have a lot of good gay friends that are Christians, and I have a lot of friends that are Christians, and so on. And that's beautiful. If you can find a path in that, that's great. I don't like it when it's used to take away rights or abilities from the ability. Nobody's so above everybody else that we can't all get along in the same community.
If I can jump in real quick to that point, we had one listener who is probably amongst our most faithful, longtime listeners, and I hope you won't mind me bringing this up again. And God, I hope I say his last name right. But Joe Meebs has been with us for a long time, and he sent Sean an email, which we still say Sean loves email. People send your email to is it podcast at MotaApes.com?
Podcast at MotaApes.com.
Yeah, if you like Sean, if you want to talk to a guy that sits around in a hoodie while we're talking, write to Sean. Ooh, scary Sean. But Joe sent us an email that...
Joe Meebs, I think.
Yes, Meebs. He sent us an email, and in it he talked about he is a man of faith. He believes as he believes, and he believes that a union should be between a man and woman. But what he wants is he likes to hear differing opinions so he can learn, so he can understand. That's all we're asking, is listen to each other. Start realizing that there are different perspectives, and when you begin establishing laws that say you're not allowed to have your differing opinion that takes away. I'm not hurting your world by having my opinion. And so to all those listeners out there that may be thinking, oh, they're not on my side of the fence, you know what? No, I'm not. But I acknowledge your side of the fence exists, and I want to hear about it. Let's talk about it, and let's try to figure out how we end up in the middle where we're all happy. That's all we're asking.
And to bring it back to the movie that we just watched, we have a white British writer that's been involved with creating these scripts for the Planet of the Apes and so on and stuff. And he's delving into political issues. And I'm sure for him, writing these, there was a journey in how to figure out thought and how to move through and how to step himself into somebody else's role and kind of process what it would mean for them. We saw it just when we just finished Conquest. We saw the dialogue between McDonald and Caesar, and we kind of felt like, hey, now that we're stepping back and looking at this moment, we feel like the perspective was definitely of a white man writing a role of what McDonald would be saying as a former slave and how he represented himself in the situation. Was it right or wrong? I'm sure there are people on the gamut of the spectrum who would believe what McDonald would say, who would be African-American. But at the same time, we're trying to break down this moment. We just want to be able to step in and understand people and know what's going on and have respect for one another. And it doesn't mean that we're taking away your right or ability to believe what you want to believe. Right. But can't we come to common ground where we can all live and be happy?
Somebody, Richard, I'm sure you feel this way. Somebody that is given rights that other people have, that now you can have, being married, having a partner, does not mean other people's rights are being taken away. You're just being treated as equal to other people. And people who see you being treated as equal mean they're diminished, means that they have a problem. They don't see you as an equal to them. They see you as a piece of garbage that's been raised up, and now you're the same as me. How does that work? So fuck those people.
Well, I'm gonna totally kind of segue into another argument, really, completely, totally. I'm a firm believer in minimum wage, and I'm a firm believer in equal opportunity to minimum wage and to earn a living, and I'm sure most people would say that they are. And I think it's kind of the same type of analysis. I want a very, very healthy middle class. I want a very, very healthy upper middle class. Well, yeah. I want a very healthy. I don't want people in poverty.
It shouldn't be just rich and poor and everybody's fucked otherwise.
And I will do what I can to make sure that happens for as many people as I can. I mean, I'm a business. If I could pay my employees a mint, I would. I have to pay them based upon what the income of the store is. But I want to see them. But I want to see them healthy and happy, and I want to see them have insurance, and I want them to see them be able to pay their mortgages and their rents and have food on the table.
You're not actively fighting to keep the minimum wage even lower than it is right now. You're trying to raise people up instead of, if you can't make it, fuck you.
I saw somebody on my Facebook was making a comment about why raising minimum wage is bad, and I didn't really want to jump into the argument, but she was basically saying the kind of the first response to, oh my gosh, I'm a small business. I suddenly can't afford paying all my employees $20 an hour. Right? Now, I'm also on the front lines of people who make minimum wage that come in to buy a comic book. So when I say, oh my gosh, they're going to raise the minimum wage to $20, I can't afford my employees paying $20. Sure, that first week might be weird, or the second week might be weird just because it's a lot of money to kind of outflow to the employees for an hourly wage. But when I begin to think about the fact that the majority of my other customers are also now making that money, and they can come in and spend a little bit more money, it becomes a little bit easier. Like it's like the idea that I'm not just, what is it? A rising tide raises all boats.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. I might have the first week or two being rough, but it's across the board, and my customers coming in will be able to spend more money as well.
Well, there's no reason that I can't go back to, Sean, I think of our good friend Brian Enright, how when we first met, Brian was a Republican at the time. Brian is a gay man, and I used to have battles with him. Like, how can you be a Republican and be that? I mean, we would just fight and fight and fight. I'm like, this makes no fucking sense.
Does not make sense. And you try to get your own self-interest.
But he always came back to the fiscal side and talked about trickle-down economics. So trickle-down being the idea that if I give the money to the rich, if I give them breaks, they will put their money back into establishments that create jobs, and the money will trickle down and go back up.
Real quick before you get into that, always think of trickle-down as P. So they got the money, but they're trickling down their piss on you.
So I would say to him
that way.
In that instance, it's what you're just saying, Richard. What is the flip of trickle down? If the idea is I'm going to give the breaks to the people here, well, they hold on to it. They're not going to do it back. But if you give it to this, it rises. Because what are they going to do? These people don't have the money that, I can just put some of that aside and make my wealth bigger. These people, it's like, oh, shit, now I can buy that comic I wanted. And that comes back into the economy. That's what everyone is saying. And I want to dive back into one thing before we begin talking economics. All these things. So,
we are economic scholars over here, by the way.
Yes, we are. Especially Guru Jedi Sean. I just can't get over you being very Jedi-like right now.
After this, we'll talk about COVID because we're noted epidemiologists. So we'll all your science and math answered here. All right. Anyway.
So I want to be fair about something. When we talk about these kind of things like, look, the beliefs you have and being different than ours, I'm being absolutely adamant. Amy Coney Barrett, your religious views to me are kind of wacky. I champion you that you have those religious views. Go do them. I'm not going to stop you. Those are your views. QAnon.
Here's my problem real quick, Todd. That's great for her. Imagine if she was Muslim and she had Muslim